Aloha and welcome to Knitted Paradise, where the needles are clicking and the yarn is squishy. My name is Lucia and you can find me on Ravelry and Instagram as Pearl of the Pacific. Welcome to episode 50. Wow, 50. Today is Sunday, I don't know the date, November 30th. I should know the date. Tomorrow's my husband's birthday, so should know the date. Anyway, Sunday, November 30th, and happy Thanksgiving weekend to everyone. I hope you had a nice time with your family and friends. We sure did. We went over to our bestie's house, and it's a couple, and they're besties that we hang out with. They live like 2 minutes away, and her family was in town for Thanksgiving, so we went over there and played some games and had some fun, and it was great. So, and then I've just kind of been relaxing since then. My husband's had to work a lot, but I have not, so I've been at home and doing a lot of knitting and catching up on podcasts and doing stuff around the house. And tomorrow morning, when my alarm goes off, it's going to be a rude awakening. I've really enjoyed this kind of mini vacation. So, yay for work. I really enjoy my work. It's not that I'm not looking forward to going back. It's just I kind of have enjoyed the non-stress of not having to go anywhere, really. I think, Friday I didn't go anywhere. Saturday I did. Last night I went out dancing, which was really fun. And then today I went to the beach with our besties that we had Thanksgiving with, which you're probably asking yourself, why did you go to the beach when it's winter? Well, we live 2 blocks from the lake, and I wanted to take pictures of my new patterns, and since the names are slightly beachy themed, I thought, hey, let's just go over to the beach and take some pictures. So that's what we did. It was really cold. I was hoping it was going to be warmer. It was forecasted to be warmer. It was a lot warmer yesterday, but today the temperature kind of dropped. So it's a little chillier than I originally intended pictures to be, but that's okay. It is winter knitwear, so slightly appropriate. But now it's really cold in the apartment because yesterday I had all the windows open. So today I'm like, why is it so cold? It's like, oh, Lucy, you left the windows open. So I have a fire going on behind me, which is what that flickering is. And so my back is very toasty right now, which is really nice. It was really cold, and I had the cat on my lap for a while. I was like, oh, this is nice. And then I had to get up because I was hungry. So I got some dinner, and then I made the fire, and now I'm sitting down to talk to you. So enough about everything. Let's get on to some knitting. So below the concha, we still have the sweater knit along going on. As you can see, I've knit some sweaters. Yeah. Yes, I have a new garland. Can you see? I'll talk about each of those things later, but I was pretty proud of myself for actually doing it. I know I said I was going to do it, and it was kind of an impulse decision, and I thought, I may never get to that. Because it's one of those things that you don't really have a deadline for. So it's like, I'll get to that eventually. But because the things are really small, it's nice to kind of squeeze them in between other projects. So that's been really nice. So that's the knit along that's going on for Save the Children. And the prizes for that are a $50 gift certificate to Webs and copies of my new patterns that are going to be out tomorrow, which I will talk about a little later. And that ends December 12th. So there is a thread in the Ravelry group, which is Knitted Paradise Podcast. And there's a thread for finished sweaters. They can be any size for, dolls up to, adult size. Any size counts. And just post a picture of your finished object and you will be entered to win one of those 3 prizes. All right, on the island, I have a lot of things because it's now kind of the next batch and I've cast on a lot of things. So the one thing that you have seen before is the Grant Park Pullover by Salena Lee, and this is out of Leading Men Fiber Arts Dramaturg in the Darkest Hour colorway. And oh, there you go. There you can see the pattern. And it is black, but it's not a harsh black, which is really nice. I really enjoyed knitting with it. I really enjoy this yarn. So it may have gotten an inch or so since you last saw it. I don't remember, but that's coming along. And all right, next I have on my list, I have the Sweater Garland by Pat Olski for Save the Children, and that's where these two patterns came from. This is the striped, oh sorry, things are backward. This is the seed stitch sweater. So this bottom part's all seed stitch, and this is out of Knit Pick Stroll that I had from something, and then this is the striped sweater, and it is out of, the dark green is Classically Princess, and the stripes are the mystery, what I think is BFL yarn that I used to knit my bag out of. So those two are finished. There's two more in the pattern, so I haven't really counted it as finished, but half of it's done. The next sweater I have, I'm going to do the cabled sweater, and it's out, I'm going to do it out of some Barocco Remix in this natural colorway. I don't really know what the colorway is called, but that I'm going to do the cabled one. So here's the, let me show you the Sweater Garland. It's a free pattern that you can get if you go to savethechildren.org/sweater. This is the pattern. So I've done the striped sweater and the seed stitch sweater, and then that's the one I'm going to do next, and then I guess that one's next. We'll see. But, so that's my plan for the cable sweater. Although I realize that this kind of blends into the wall, so it may be not such a good idea. We'll see. I may amend that decision, but oh, go in. Does not want to go in this little bag. I have this in my little fat squirrel bag with the birdies on it. And really, it's just because I do one sweater at a time, so that's a perfect size for just that little sweater. All right. Next, I have the Polperro Hornpipe, which is a pair of socks by Deep Sea Knits, and this is out of Miss Bab's Cosmic Hand Paints in Fraser. And these are for my best friend's birthday. And he has gigantic man feet. So I feel like I have been knitting these forever, and I've just started the gusset increases. But that's not the color whatsoever. It's this lovely dark green, but that's the pattern you can see. It's very simple. It's a free pattern, and it's really easy to memorize, really easy to read your knitting as you're going. And I've just noticed a mistake that I'm not going to fix, but I don't care. It's not that noticeable, and he won't care. But anyway, those are coming along. And those are in my new yarn pop bag, the bright yellow in the inside. And when I started them, I totally forgot to use the grommet, so oh well, next time. They work just as well this way. So those are coming along. His birthday is coming up quite quickly, so those have to be finished. Sorry. I don't have a cold, but one of the things about the weather getting really cold really quickly is that I tend to, my nose tends to just drip oddly. So that's what's going on. Oh, if you were wondering, I painted my nails, and I painted the ring finger blue, thinking that I'd be all cool and hip, because that's what you do, you paint your ring finger a different color, and then I realized that it makes me look like I slammed my ring fingers into the wall or into something, and it just looks like I have a dead nail. So just ignore that. I didn't have time to take it off. I'll probably take it off tonight or my coworker's gonna be like, what happened to you? I was trying to be cool, okay? And I just ended up looking ridiculous, but whatever. I wanted my fingernails to be pretty for my mitt design pictures, and then I ended up cutting out all the ones where I show my fingernails because I look like weirdos, so that's okay. I learned my lesson. Don't try to be cool, Lucia, or paint them all dark and just have the ring finger be a little bit darker, or just put sparkle on it. Anyway, I learned my lesson. Don't try to do the cool thing without knowing what you're doing. I don't paint my nails hardly ever, so that's what happened. All right, next is my Whispering Pines shawl by Molly Klatt of the Homespun House podcast. And what is going on here? And I'm knitting it out of my Homespun House horsey bag. So I was all cool and matching my designer to my bag. And it is quite large. And I'm doing this out of the yarn I got from my swap partner. And this is from one of her local yarn stores. And it's this gorgeous tonal blue with some sparkle in it. And it looked like snow. And this pattern was inspired by Robert Frost poem, Stopping by the Woods on a Snowy Evening, which is also one of my favorites. And it's got this lovely, just textured kind of snow pattern up here. And then it's got pine trees down at the bottom, which you won't really be able to see because it's all bunched up, but you can kind of see them. So I've done 3 repeats of the chart, which I think is what it calls for, but I still have a considerable amount of yarn left. So I'm going to go for a 4th repeat and then see how much yarn I have. There wasn't any yardage on it, but it was 100 grams, so I just kind of guessed, you know, it's a sock weight, 100 grams, it should be plenty enough. And it has been, so that has been going really quickly. I think I did the entire, gosh, the yarn's getting all wound up. The entire snowy section in a day, and then I did the lace section in another day. And that's just because I was doing, I did the first, I think 3 or 4 rows of the lace section and realized I messed up like way back, like the 2nd row, so I had to rip back 3 rows and redo it, and then stitch count was off, and then I had to do the first repeat quite a few times, but I got it, and the 2nd and 3rd repeats went much quicker. So that is zooming along, and we'll probably be done by the next time you see it. And all right, what's next? Split Back Snowflake Hat by Susan B. Anderson. And I'm doing this out of Quince & Co. Chickadee and Robin's Egg, which is this nice light blue color, and River, which is this darker color. And this is what it looks like so far. Let's see if we can get one of the lace repeats. So it's coming along. Not quite halfway through the lace repeat chart, but it's got fuzz on it. This is not living in a bag because I ran out of bags. I need to cast some stuff off and put it away. And I have to finish some projects so I can reclaim some bags, but this is what it looks like so far. So there's a split in the back where it goes over. Let's see if I can do this without looking completely ridiculous. I probably will, but the split happens in the back, and it means that these 2 flappies kind of come down a little further, so it covers your ears really well. And then hopefully I'll have enough yarn left over for the pom-pom at the top. Although I think, ooh, let's get that. Oh, I am getting all tangled up in yarn today. Anyway. So that went rather quickly. I realized I did do the brim wrong. I think I was supposed to do less repeats in between the cables, and I didn't feel like ripping it back. I'm like, that's close enough. It'll be fine. So that is that. All right. One more thing. I know you're thinking, what else did you do in the last 4 days? I did do other things, I promise. I just did a lot of knitting. I cast on the Foolproof by Louise Zass Bangham out of Mrs. Crosby's satchel in Varied Bunting and French Chambray, which is this nice blue. And these are two colorways I picked up at Stitches with the intention of doing a 2-color shawl for my mother. And then I was thinking that we were in Prague, she was kind of into the cowls. She loves wearing scarves. She lives in Hawaii and she loves wearing scarves. Which seems kind of counterintuitive, but my hometown does get kind of chilly. It is 3,000 feet above sea level, as I think I've mentioned before. So it does get chilly. I mean, what we consider chilly here in Chicago and what they consider chilly are very different things, but, you know, in their standard, it gets chilly. So I asked her what she wanted. She doesn't know the yarn. She doesn't know she's getting it for her birthday. But I said, you know, would you rather have a shawl or an infinity scarf / cowl? Because I noticed in Europe she was getting into those. She was doing a lot of scarf shopping. And she's like, oh, what are these things? I'm like, you wear them like, you know, a cowl, like, you know, infinity scarf thing. And she's like, oh, these are cool. So my mom is pretty hip, and so she wanted a cowl. So I picked Foolproof. So this is the beginning of it. I think I finished Clue 1. It came out as a mystery knit along. And yeah. She loves this color blue. This is very much her. And she also enjoys red. So that's why I picked these two. And they go together pretty well, I think. They're not super matchy-matchy, but I'm okay with that. I think that's kind of nice that they're not super matchy. The blue in the Varied Bunting is a little more turquoisey, but it doesn't clash with this as much as I thought it might. But so that is that. It is a single ply yarn, and I'm really enjoying the stitch definition in this garter. It's really kind of cool. So that's that. And I think that's it for knitting. That's living in my little skein and big wool treehouse bag, because that's what I had left. It's kind of big for the shawl, but it works. And that's it for on the needles. That's a lot. I'm sorry, that is a lot. And it's kind of nice to have a variety of things, because when I go to work tomorrow, I'll just take one thing. I'm not going to take all of them, but so just to take one thing, concentrate on it for a day, and then kind of be done with it for a little while. Like I worked on these socks on Thanksgiving. I took them with me to Thanksgiving. So we were playing games, and then we were watching football and other things. And so I just worked on those. And by the end of that day, I was like, okay, I'm ready to work on something else. So the next day I worked on my Whispering Pine shawl, and then, the next day I worked on something else. So it's just kind of nice to rotate through things so you don't get too tired of one thing. And so it's nice to just kind of be monogamous for a day, kind of. So that's my plan, is that tomorrow I'll probably take these with me to work, the socks. And so I can get some more work on those. But after that, I'm be like, okay, I need something bigger, and I'll probably go for the sweater, because it's, DK weight and larger needles, and it's just have the variety. So I'm happy that I have all those things on the needles. And sorry, someone's in the back stairwell. All right, things that have set sail are, I finished 2 Birds of Happiness. One is up here, This is out of leftovers from another crafty girl in the Lost Souls, I think is the colorway. I made socks out of it in July. And I take it down, but it's on my Garland. Maybe I'll take it down at the end and show it to you. But I knit that little birdie, and then I knit another one that's going to be sent in a package to someone. So that's not here. That's somewhere else, being hidden from the cat. Who thinks that all of the things that I knit that are small are his toys? Not necessarily. And let's see, what else did I finish? I finished these two sweaters, which I talked about. And I also finished this little mitten, which is the pattern called Smitten, and it's by Emily Ivy, and this is out of Knitted Wit in Frosted Cedar, which is what I knit my expanding community socks out of. And it's this lovely bright green with gray. It's really like a silver, and then like a white. And I held it double because the pattern is for a worsted weight. I held it double, and I think I did it on size 3 needles because that's what I had. Like, it doesn't have to fit anyone, it doesn't matter. But that's what that is. And I think the pattern is for, you can knit 24 of them to be an advent calendar. I just knit one. But the pattern is lovely because it's got them all lined up and they're all these different colors and it's beautiful. Maybe I'll make more eventually. Over here we have I think it's called a little heart puff. I knit this a while ago. I did show this. And then this is Loopy's Little Red Sock Kit that I got from the Loopy U when making an order. And knit that up pretty quickly. Finally put a cord on it so I could attach it. And most of the cord, this one I did an I-cord, and then I realized that was really annoying. And the other ones are just single, I just chain crocheted. It's not single crochet, it's just like a chain stitch with crochet. And that worked out really well. It's a little more sturdy than just a single strand of yarn, but it's still really simple and goes really quickly. So that's what the other ones are attached with. And yeah, those are the things I finished this week. And I got something in the mail, so I got something from the mainland. I did a trade with someone because I was stocking her stash while eating lunch. And so I was at work and I was, eating lunch, stocking her stash, and I saw this and I literally stopped chewing. I was eating my sandwich and I just stopped chewing and stared as I was like scrolling down the thing. So I was like, where did you get this? And unfortunately that dyer hasn't updated in a really long time. And so I couldn't get any through her. And she said, well, why don't we do a trade? I said, sounds great, because then it doesn't add to my stash, right? I get something new and she gets something new, but we haven't technically added to the stash. Ooh, this even feels nicer. I haven't taken it out of the plastic because I've been afraid to get cat hair on it. But this is a skein from Geek String, and it is in her Sunwell, which is a superwash merino worsted base. It's a single ply, and it's called Sonic Rainboom, and it is glorious. It's this gorgeous teal with rainbow, really bright rainbow. Isn't that fabulous? Oh my gosh. Thank you to my trade partner. This is everything I wanted. It's so pretty. So then I'll make a hat out of it because I really want people to see it. And I think it would look lovely on my head. Maybe I should just wear it like that, except that's not going to stay. Maybe? There we go. For a little while. So I have not sent out her package because I have not had a car to go to the post office. But hopefully tomorrow I will make that happen. So It's not that I haven't wanted to send you your package, just that my husband has the car when he goes to work, and it's cold, and the nearest post office is kind of far away. So, plus, if I go outside, that requires me to actually put clothes on and look halfway decent rather than wandering around the house in my pajamas. So, it has not happened yet. So, that's going to be on the needles probably pretty soon. So, thank you. That was the only thing I got. Now we'll put it back in its nice, lovely plastic bag. Sometimes the cat, if I leave a skein out, the cat will think it's his, so he'll cuddle with it, covering it in cat hair. Which I'm glad he likes to cuddle with my yarn. I really don't blame him. But at the same time, I don't appreciate having his cat hair in it. It's okay, I usually just pick it out as I go. So that was my From the Mainland. Flora and fauna. Someone asked a little while ago about tips for knitting toys, and since I have knit a couple toys, well, this one's not a toy, it's a decoration, recently, I thought I'd talk about it. And I did go to a lecture by Susan B. Anderson when I went to Vogue, and it was all about tips for knitting toys. And some of the things that really stuck out to me was that gauge is very important with toys. Sometimes you don't think about doing a gauge swatch for toys because you're like, well, it doesn't have to fit anyone, it's just a toy. But having a dense gauge really matters if you don't want your stuffing to show. Especially if you have a dark yarn and your stuffing is light, or if you have a light yarn and your stuffing is dark. Gauge is really important. And so often, you know, what you would think to knit a certain gauge, you know, a certain weight of yarn at, go down a couple needle sizes. You know, if you think, oh, I always knit worsted weight on size 7s, you know, knit it on a 5 or maybe even a 4 or a 3 in order to get that dense fabric so that, you know, it holds up to use and the stuffing doesn't pop out in random places. It's also important if you have any holes to sew them up so that stuffing doesn't pop out. And stuffing was another thing she talked about, and is that when you're doing stuffing, you want to, oh, I wish I brought some with me, but she used to love that, just that polyfill that you get at like a hobby store. It's that white fluffy stuff. Anyway, you want to not just like take it out as a chunk and put it in your toy. You want to take it out and fluff it. Kind of you know, if you bought a fleece and you're fluffing it to prepare it for spinning. You don't just spin straight from the fleece. You fluff it up a little bit. I don't spin, but this is what I've learned from other podcasts, is that you want to fluff it up and then put it in there. And put it in there nicely and don't shove it in balls, because you want your toy to be, you know, fluffy and round and not full of little balls of stuffing. And there's a very careful balance between like just the right stuffing and too much stuffing. So you kind of have to, you know, stuff it in there and then kind of feel it and stuff some more in there and feel it. And, you know, I ran into that with this little bird. Like this one ended up a lot more dense than the other bird. And that's just because I shoved more stuffing into this one. And I don't think either of them are really bad, but it depends what you're doing it for. Like if you're making a toy, like my Chloe doll, I wanted her to be able to sit up. And so I put beans actually in her butt so that, and in her hands and her feet so that they kind of hang down. So it adds more weight. There's these little they're little plastic pellets basically, and it adds more weight to the fabric. And sorry, it's my mother. And then I put polyfill on top of that. And you want, you know, especially if you're making a toy for a little one, you know, a little kid, you want it kind of firm so that they can squeeze it and not kill it. You don't want it super floppy. You want it to be able to stand up, because as they as I play with it, it's going to compact a little bit, and that's okay. So you want to, you know, put a lot in there so that if it compacts a little bit, it'll still be okay. She's complimenting on me on my knitting pictures that I sent her from earlier. Thanks, Mom. And so those were my tips about stuffing. The other thing that really stuck out to me was the face. When you're doing the face, sometimes you have to do it a bunch of times. And I ran into that when I was doing Chloe. I did do her face about 3 or 4 times in order to get it just right. I saved her face until last, and I think that's a personal choice, just because I wanted to know where her hair was and where her ears were before I put her eyes on, so that, you know, I could put them on in the right place. Other people do it the other way around. As soon as they make the head, they find, you know, where they want the face, and they do the face first, and that kind of gives personality to the rest of the toy. That's kind of up to you how you want to do it, but make sure you make time for that. Don't rush through it. It's okay to do the face 3 or 4 times in order to get it just right. You know, if as you're knitting it, this toy kind of develops a personality to you, or when you're done and you look at it and you're like, oh, it really needs this kind of face. Susan B. Anderson was talking about the giraffe that she knit. That's on the cover of one of her books, and I think I have that book, and I do plan on knitting that giraffe. And she said when she was done knitting it, she kind of put it down, and its head kind of drooped, and she's like, oh, it kind of looks like it's asleep. And so she put, you know, the sleepy eyes, you know, where you close and you just kind of have that little line right there. And so that was, you know, a face that developed from the personality of that toy. So, you know, maybe your giraffe doesn't do that, and so maybe you put awake eyes on it, and kind of up to you. She also talked about safety eyes versus other, you know, embroidered eyes. I personally feel like embroidered faces, they're a little more nuanced than just, you know, the safety eyes. Obviously, if you're giving it to a child, safety eyes are a very good option. They're a very simple option, and, you know, they're safe because they're called safety eyes. But hand embroideries also, it may take more time, but I think it adds more personality. Hi, Pan. His water bowl's right next to me, so he's coming to have some. He likes to drag his water bowl and then drink out of it, so he's weird. Anyway, the one thing is that if you're going to hand embroider a face on a toy for a child, make sure to anchor that down really well so they don't pull it out on accident, because that would just be devastating. My toy lost an eye! You don't want that. Anyway, that was my horrible child impression. I am not good at impersonating crying children. Whiny children, I can do. Alright, we won't get into that. Okay. From my holiday, I'm going to show you my new pattern designs that are going to be out tomorrow. As I said earlier, I went to the beach in the freezing cold with my friends who were nice enough to help me take pictures of my patterns, and so I'm going to show them to you. The mitts were I designed first, just because I did, and I plan on doing a series, or a collection rather, of patterns that are kind of similarly themed, and these are kind of, they're oceany themed, obviously because I grew up in Hawaii. So these are kind of based on, I guess, my memories or my experiences of growing up in Hawaii. So these are the Twisted Sand mitts, and they have a lovely textured pattern on the hand that you can kind of see there. And then the thumb is just stockinette. Kind of see that there. So these are the mitts. And I chose to do them extra long because as my other mitts that I have are a little shorter. And as I was wearing them and driving to work, you know, I had my hand around the steering wheel and my other hand on the stick shift, and I was realizing that my fingers were cold because they were on the cold steering wheel. And I thought, well, why don't I just make these longer? And then when, you know, I'm on the steering wheel, I can just kind of pull them up and then they cover my whole finger. So that's why they're long. So they go all the way up to my pinky. You can also roll them down if you want them to be shorter. So this is, you know, for doing things and when you go inside and you don't feel like taking them all the way off. You can just kind of roll them down and then use your fingers and then go back outside, roll them up. But they still leave your fingers free for doing, you know, texting or GPSing or whatever you do on your phone or other touchscreen devices outside. And yeah, so they're really dense. I knit them on a size 3, and it's a DK weight yarn. This is Leading Men Fiber Arts Dramaturg, which is their DK base, and this is their Poseidon colorway. And I chose to make them really dense. I'm also a very tight knitter. So I chose to make them dense because I wanted them to be warm. Obviously, they're mitts for outside. And my fingers were quite toasty today. It was windy. That was the one thing that got me. But actually having them long helped with the wind because I have another pair of mitts that I knit that were shorter and the top is just kind of big and air gets in there and it's cold. So having them kind of tight at the top helped. So these were partly designed to be pretty and partly designed to be functional. So I'm a very practical person. I like things that are functional as well as nice looking. Because, you know, while it's nice to have lots of pretty knitwear, I also like it to be practical and easy to wear. And because otherwise I'm not going to wear it if it's not practical. So these are the Twisted Sand mitts, and the pattern will be released tomorrow. It's going to be $5 on Ravelry, and I am going to release a coupon code. Not sure what it's going to be, but it's going to be discount for, ooh, just got windy in the fireplace. It's going to be a discount for podcast viewers only, so please do not share this. I will think of it in a minute. I haven't actually, the pattern's written and pictures are in. That's what I did this afternoon. I haven't published it on Ravelry yet, so you can't see it yet, but it will be up by tomorrow morning, as probably will be this podcast. I might put it out tonight, we'll see. Not the pattern, the podcast, So those are the Twisted Sand mitts, and those, sorry I'm talking a lot about these, but I'm really excited about them. This is a stitch pattern. It's a textured stitch pattern that I came up with. It's kind of a combination of a few different things, and I really like how it looks. I tried a bunch of different things before settling on this one, and yeah, I'm really happy with it. I really like the way it looks. So, and my test knitters have really been enjoying it as well. So thank you to my test knitters. They've pointed out some good things and some things that I thought made sense, and then they were like, wait, what does this mean? I'm like, yeah, what does that mean? It made sense when I wrote it. And but overall they've had some good feedback, so that's been really nice. All right, and the next thing is entitled the Triple Swell Hat. And this is a slightly slouchy beanie. I wouldn't call it a super slouchy hat. I did block it over a plate to kind of stretch it out and yeah, get the slouchy effect. So it's this nice lace pattern that goes up the hat. And then these really cool swirly crown decreases. And the inspiration behind this one was that when I was growing up in Hawaii, I'll put it on so you can kind of see how it fits. So it's just kind of slightly slouchy in the back. The other version I did, which you'll see in the pictures, I gave it to my friend. And that I did out of Malabrigo Rios. I did a set of the mitts and the hat out of Rios just to test the pattern again and see if it would work on a worsted weight. I still knit them on the same needles, and that it worked, so that was good. Anyway, the inspiration behind the hat is that when I was at the beach growing up, which was a lot, as I'll say in the pattern, the nearest movie theater to my house was an hour away. Sometimes they showed things in my town, but we usually got them really late, and they only showed one at a time, just over the weekend. It'd be like, okay, this one movie for this weekend, and then that's it. So the nearest actual movie theater was an hour away. But the beaches, some of the nicest on the planet, including my favorite beach, were about 25, 30 minutes away. So you can kind of guess where I spent my time, was at the beach. And so my experience being at the beach is I'm not a huge fan of big waves. I don't really surf. I do enjoy some body surfing or some boogie boarding. But I don't enjoy the huge waves. I got tumbled a few times when I was younger of just, not being tall enough to withstand the power of the wave when it crashes into you, which is quite a lot, I must say. I think people underestimate the power of the ocean. It's intense. And so I wasn't really a fan of the big waves. I have since learned how to dive under them, which is really cool if you're wearing goggles or you open your eyes. It's the way the water moves, really cool. Anyway, totally sidetracked. Big waves came in sets of 3s in my experience. So if you wanted to there's kind of a threshold in, there's like a shelf, and then the shelf kind of drops off. And so that's where that shelf starts dropping off, is where the waves start crashing. And in the beaches in Hawaii, it's usually not too far out. But it's about, where I can not touch, which is not too far out because I'm kind of short. But if I go a little bit farther than that, the waves wouldn't be crashing on me. And so you had to time when you would swim out to that section, or you would get crashed on the way out, which was not really the point of the whole thing, right? You want to be in the ocean, not crashed on. So we would time the waves, and the big waves would come in sets of 3. You could see them coming. You'd see like the bigger swell. So they're called swells, basically, when, larger sets of waves come. It's called a swell. When kind of the ocean, it's not high tide, but anyway, you can look it up. Me trying to explain ocean terms is not going well. But larger waves would come in sets of 3s, in my experience. So you would watch them kind of come in, and you're like, all right, 1, 2, 3, swim, is kind of how it went. And so that's why this lace pattern is in a 3. So you have 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3, and so that's what it is. It's like the smaller sets. There'd be a larger set of smaller waves, and then there'd just be these 3 big waves, not huge versus tiny, but large enough that they could have, knocked me over quite well. And so you just count those 3 waves and then swim out past where they would crash, and then you'd be fine. You kind of still get the up and down when they would, come through you, but you wouldn't get that crest that comes with a wave crashing. And so there you go. There's my beach stories growing up. So we'd go, swim out past where the waves crashed and hung out for a bit, and tread in water, swam around, did whatever we would do. See who could, do a handstand or whatever. And anyway, whatever kids do in the ocean. This is when I was a little bit older, obviously. When I was, a tiny, tiny little kid, I'm not swimming out past the waves. I would, play in the sand, which is where these came from. Twisted sand mitts came from my experience of playing in the sand. So that's my beachy themed winter knitwear. And the plan is to have other things to go in this collection. I am planning on doing a cowl that combines these 2-stitch patterns, and I'm also thinking of putting a sock in there that is kind of, I haven't come up with a stitch pattern for it, but someone asked me if I could talk about, you know, if I knit a vanilla sock, which I have never done, you know, what would it look like? And so I thought, oh, I'll write a pattern that's kind of, you know, if I knit a vanilla sock, except put a stitch pattern on it. But, you know, the toe I do and the heel I tend to do, and things like that. So I plan up on writing, you know, if you were wondering what toe, everyone kind of has their toe that they do. And, you know, when I read a pattern, for instance, like this pattern is more built, I don't know why I'm showing the bag. This pattern is written more like a recipe where you put in your own toe and you put in your own heel, and then they, you know, they give you the stitch pattern, which I think I talked about last time. So I'm not going to do a recipe. I will do a full-on pattern, and but that's kind of what I'm going to do. You know, I'm going to do my toe and my heel, and then, you know, a stitch pattern. And now my mom's telling me that I'm beautiful and I look good in my knitwear pictures. Thanks, Mom. Oh no, she's asking me a different question, but before she was telling me I look beautiful. Thanks, Mommy. And we had a lot of fun running around on the beach looking ridiculous, trying to take pictures of the knitting. Oh, it was great. So we got some good shots. It wasn't sunny today like it was yesterday, which is nice because you don't get the harsh shadows for pictures. But I kind of wished it was sunny because it would have been a little warmer. The wind off the lake is a little intense. But we survived and we stayed warm. My head was actually quite warm. I always worried that, you know, a lace hat would not be very warm, but it is quite warm. I did this very large brim, so that's kind of what's over my ears, and that kept me very warm. Anyway, now I'm getting really warm because I'm right in front of the fire. But, ooh, hair everywhere. So, now you've seen the patterns, and they will be out soon. Tomorrow is the plan. I've spent a lot of time putting these together because I want them to be well written and I want them to look nice. And so I hope you like it. And the hat's also going to be $5. And I'm going to put a coupon code somewhere on this screen. I'm going to investigate doing that because I can't think of one right now. But I am going to put a coupon up just for podcast viewers, so please do not share this with other people. That's probably going to be the largest discount, and it'll be up for a week. I'm going to do it for the first week, and I may also do a discount code for Instagram followers. It'll be a different code, and it'll be a different amount or percentage or something. So, and they won't be combinable, if that's a word. Stackable, addable. Now I'm just making up ridiculous words. But I want to do something different for podcast viewers and Instagrammers, and those are really the two places. So keep an eye out because I will have put it probably like right here in, you know, somewhere. We'll see if my my editing technology skills will allow me to do that. It shouldn't be too hard, hopefully. We'll see. Anyway, it's gone on long enough. So I hope you had a lovely Thanksgiving or a lovely week if you're not in the US. And yeah, happy knitting, and I will see you guys again soon. Bye.